I love music, and I actively tried to seek out as many genres and new bands as I could, just so I could really get the full scope of it. Like, I was really into egg punk and crankwave, all of these sort of weird, off the path things. Spotify told me that baseball emo was the thing, but it told me that baseball emo was the thing right in between my Gyat mix and my Freaky mix. So it really made me start to think about how the music I was listening to is just music that was pushed at me by an algorithm, by a robot that thought that maybe I would like this specific music, the only thing it's letting me see. And most of the time it was right. But it really begged the question of how much music is there in the world that I could love, that I could really appreciate, but just wasn't getting to even hear to begin with, because it's not what the algorithm wanted me to see. The book The Mood Machine, The Rise and Fall of Spotify and the Perfect Playlist by Liz Pelly explores these themes. I think it does. I haven't actually read it. It just came out like a month ago, or this month, and I don't have hardcover money, so I'm waiting for the paperback. But I heard it was good, and I read the description of it, and I requested it at my local library. So I think we're good there. But the next step of my journey of how do I hear music that they don't want you to hear is I gotta listen to all of it. And there are 49,000 songs added to Spotify every single day, so it was really a Sisyphusian task. Like, you get over to the edge, like, oh, you're about to listen to all the music. Nope, 50,000 more songs. So this was sort of a New Year's resolution of mine, so I cut it off. Like, no new music after January 1st, 2025. So only all of the music before December 31st, 2024. And I started this on the new year. But pretty intense experience, so I do have notes. I'm writing it from notes. You'll see this kind of, it took a lot of toll on me, so I don't really want to edit this. So just one take talking to you about all of the music, because I feel like I'm pretty qualified now. But a lot of music had to have a plan. I started this on the new year, which is before the book Mood Machine came out. So I'm guessing that Liz and I are like kind of on the same wavelength. There's over 100 million songs on Spotify. Get it? Like a wavelength, like the music, like a sound wave, a frequency. But there's over 100 million songs on Spotify. It's hard to get an exact number, so that's just the number I use in my calculations in preparing how I would have to do this. If an average song length has 30.5 minutes, it would take 665.5 years to get through all of the songs on Spotify. That's not happening. Spotify probably won't even exist in 665 years. So I couldn't listen to them one by one. I was willing to give like maybe 3 weeks to this, not 665.5 years. So I had to get creative. I used my coding knowledge. I can put screens of the algorithm I made for this to develop a system so I could play multiple songs at once through multiple speakers at once. Like, I have these 2 speakers behind me for my turntable, so we just take this speaker. It's stereo, so as a left track and a right track. That's why, like, in the car, it's like, oh, the bass is coming from over here, the guitars and drums are coming from back there. It makes it more immersive. So using that left and right track, I could play 3 songs on the right track and 3 songs on the left track, and then do the same on there. And there you go, that's like 3, 6, 12 songs just on these 2 speakers. So I'd have to do that on a bigger scale. I went around my house finding anything that with audio output. I had to take some liberties because I needed a lot, like 100 million songs. It's a big scale. So I used my Nintendo 2DS XL. I had to scrap some parts from other electronics, like the little thing that makes the little beepy dingy song on my dishwasher. That was probably the most notable example of the music technology that I rigged. Overall, I ended up with about 57 speakers, and about half of them were stereo, so I like doubled half of them. So I could play 86 tracks at once, and if I played 3 songs at each of them, which was the initial plan, I could do 258 songs at once. And I think I'll talk about how I listened to each of those later on. I kind of wrote these as I was going through the process because I knew it would be harder in retrospect to go back. So this is all almost new to me, even though I'm the one who wrote it. Now, unfortunately, at this rate, the rate of 258 songs at a time, it would take 2 years and 7 months to listen to all the music. I don't have that time. I have 3-4 weeks. So I have to compromise and make each track play 10 songs at a time. Now, it's a lot of songs. And I couldn't listen to every song actively, like when you have your headphones on and you're analyzing music, paying really close attention to the lyrics. Oh, there's a chord change there. It was more like hearing a song in the background of a grocery store. But either way, like whether you're hearing a song in the grocery store or paying close attention, they can still elicit the same emotional reactions. Like, ooh, I really like this. This is really nice. Or, this isn't for me. I wish it would move on, but it's the grocery store radio, so I can't do anything about it. But it's still on a less substantial emotional level when it's more in the background rather than when you're focusing on it. And that was probably for the better, honestly, because I'm listening to 100 million songs and like hundreds of them all at one time. So it'd be pretty bad if I was having these extreme emotional level reactions to hundreds of songs at a time, because if that was happening, boy, let me tell you, I probably wouldn't be here right now. But they were all subdued because they sort of evened each other out. So I'm fine. So I had 86 tracks playing 10 songs at each time, which made it only take 28 days. And that was something I was comfortable working with. I didn't want to make it shorter because then I feel like I couldn't focus on the music. But 28 days felt right. It's like 34 weeks, which was what I was initially going for. And you may be asking yourself, oh, what about sleeping? What about leaving to travel? Like, you need to buy groceries and stuff. So you really absorb information better when you're sleeping anyways. Like, there's all sorts of psychological studies about, like, when something's read to you in your sleep. It's very subliminal. But it still impacts you. And if anything, you remember things better if you learn them just before you fall asleep. So, if anything, I was getting a better understanding of the music then. But leaving my house was more of an issue. I built this rig that I could attach to myself, and it was kind of like a big camping backpack fused with a tactical vest combined, and all of the speakers were attached to it because I couldn't have the whole devices. Like, those types of speakers, those worked well on it, but a lot of times I had to take things apart and only use the sound components. Like, I couldn't carry a dishwasher around with me, so I had to take out the sound components, the speaker components, and then it let me hook it up to the system that I was using, run by my computer, which had the algorithm on it, which was that I made, and not the Spotify corporate algorithm that was going through all of the songs. So it was on this big vest, and I could carry it around with me, and I would show it to you, but I had to drop it off at the dry cleaners because when you wear one piece of clothing for 28 days, it gets pretty smelly. But I'll put like a drawing of it here. This was my original prototype drawing for it when I was designing it back in like November 2024. But it's a pretty cool piece of technology. It made it really convenient. I think I already said this, but I could just take it off, put it in the room with me whenever I was at my house. So then it was portable and I didn't have to leave it like, oh, in the bedroom, in the kitchen. I could take it with me from the bedroom to the kitchen so I could stay focused. I was playing all of the songs through Spotify. After all, it's not I listen to all the music on Apple Music. I listen to all the songs on Spotify. So I did get ads because I couldn't afford a book, let alone hundreds of Spotify subscriptions. But it led to some pretty interesting moments. Like there was this one pretty magical moment when the majority of the speakers of the Spotify's, they all got an ad at the same time or similar enough. There was a lot of overlapping, but this is when they just synced, very streamlined. And it was the one where it's like, oh, you could have spun some vinyl, you could have listened to the radio, you could listen to a CD, but you chose Spotify. And it was just kind of really nice hearing them all play at once. And it was kind of ironic to me, like a little bit silly, because I was using components of a CD player and I was using radios that I had like hooked up to my computer system on my body, and I was using those things to listen to Spotify. So I was really getting the full possible experience of not only listening to all of the music there's ever been, but all of the different ways of listening to music. And so as an issue you'll hear about Spotify is ghost musicians, where like Spotify, the corporation, will take stock music, like from a subscription stock library, then make fake profiles for fake musicians, release stock music as original work, and then put that stock music onto curated playlists, which is what everyone listens to, except I don't listen to them, but it's what a lot of people listen to. So then, because so many people are listening to those curated playlists, if the fake musicians are on there, then they can keep the money instead of having to pay out royalties and give to musicians who are sharing their original work. That's been going on for a while. More recently, there's AI musicians, where like independent people, not me, I'm pointing to myself, but other people will make Spotify profiles, like a bunch of them, and churn out AI generated songs and just put them up there. Sometimes they'll put a collaboration, like, oh, here, this fake person will say they made a song with Taylor Swift, and then it will show up on Taylor Swift's Spotify profile. I don't think this has ever happened to her, but it's as an example. And then all of the Taylor Swift listeners will listen to this AI-generated garbage, and the person putting up the AI-generated garbage will get the money. So not only is it a bad look for the artist whose fan might not realize that it's a fake collaboration, but it's also just really annoying, and I don't want to listen to that when I'm listening to all of the music. So because of these things, I did allow myself to skip some of the songs. And you may be saying, whoa, that's not listening to all of the music. It's listening to all of the music that's not like made by an algorithm, because that's what I'm trying to get away from. And this is my challenge. So we're good. So the stock music one was easy to figure out within my code. Because it was playing all the songs, it was running through them. So I would have it scan all of the songs on the internet, or like it would scan the songs it was playing and then look for them on the internet, like how Shazam can recognize a song. It was like that. And if it was uploaded on a stock website, a stock music website, before it was uploaded onto Spotify, I would just skip that one, so I didn't have to deal with it. But then the AI one was a bit harder because I didn't want to use an AI checker to avoid false positives. But if I heard one in the mix that I could like for sure tell was AI, I would on my computer, like where the algorithm was running, I would type in the speaker it was coming from and the channel and the song it was played on out of 10, and then I could skip it from there. So since I wasn't using premium, it was kind of annoying because if I was out of skips on the account that was running like speaker 37 channel left song 4, then I just had to listen to it. But it was okay because the way I was listening to the music sort of overrided it, so I can ignore it. So now is when I'm going to talk about how I was actually processing all of these hundreds of songs. Because, you know, the human brain, it's more powerful than a speaker. Like, I won't lie and say I was comprehending every single second of music, because I wasn't. Like, that's ridiculous. But I said I flipped through each song, like, in the channel in my brain. I, like, flipped through it like a flip book. So all of them are moving super, super fast. So I only get a split second of each song, but I still get the glimpse of the image of it. And from that, you know, an image can release a very strong impression, and I was able to get the vibe from that. There were a few parts, especially, like, very near the beginning, where I wasn't as focused, I wasn't locked into the music, and that's when I heard it all at once. And it wasn't, like, you would think you're hearing all these specific songs, and then this big power of energy. It really wasn't that bad, because, like, static white noise is just every frequency playing at once, and it really was just that, like, it was white noise. But I tried to minimize that as much as possible because I don't know what songs I'm missing. And I got pretty good at it. Like, I don't want to brag, but, like, I put a lot of time into this. I stayed at home the first week so I could develop the skill of just, like, okay, speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, speaker 4, but within that, there's the fractions of the left, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just, like, blinks of music, but so many blinks that it's one continuity stretch of my focus. It became a second nature, really, to just scroll through my focus through all of the different music that's surrounding me in this vest suit. So I listened to music chronologically. So from the first music that's standard on Spotify, because you can date albums from before Spotify existed. Like, an album will still, if an album came out in 1974, it will still say 1974, even though Spotify was invented like later than that. I don't know when it was invented. Probably should have researched that. But I really liked that. I feel like that was the best way to listen to it, because I could see how music evolved culturally. And even though it was music from all over the world, you could kind of see, like, what built on top of each other, or, like, as it got more contemporary, and music was shared across oceans, across continents, how things in each respective culture sort of fused into the other, and their own styles of it. And because it was sequential, like from oldest music to newest, that means that when music was all released at the same time, like albums, that was playing in order on one of the speakers. And I feel like that was really great, because most of the time I listened to individual songs and not albums. My algorithm, my code did overwrite the feature on Spotify, the basic plan, the non-paid version, where you have to shuffle albums. That's really weird. My program got rid of that. listening to albums, I liked this. I like the stories. I might listen to more full albums. Maybe I'll have to wait. I'll have to wait a bit. But it was almost like a blackout poem. You know, like where there's a page of text and all of the lines are blacked out, but a few words are left for you to read, and that creates a new story. That's sort of how it was. Because when you're going through songs so quickly, like I'd hear maybe a word of an album, then like 100 more songs before my brain wrapped around back to that speaker, and it would be playing the next song, and then I'd hear maybe another word. So I sort of had to piece together a story myself. But you know, I think I've seen enough stories, like movies and books, in my time to be able to put the pieces together. Like you know how when you can predict the ending of a movie, it's like that. Like you can predict what the album's about. Oh, it's about loneliness. Oh, it's a concept album about a story. You guessed the story part of it. That was what I'm saying. And because I didn't listen to newer music until the next few days, it was really nice. Like I started the really old music, then moved up. Because like by the time I got to the newer music, it had the channel in the back of my head that was scrolling through the music. It had to just become like the other voices in my head, so that way it was just a part of me, a part of my system. I was used to it, and then it just automatically was like, oh, this one's AI, and I could type it into my computer on the side while I was doing my other work, maybe reading a book, and then I'd skip the AI stuff. But again, if I couldn't skip it, it was fine, because it was just off like the wind, like the rest of them. Now it's over. Now my notes, they're kind of not needed, and I can talk. I feel like I feel a very distinct sense of loneliness now. Like it was all about escaping the taste of an algorithm that assigned it for me, though, and deciding what I like for myself. So, how did this change the music that I like? I think I just don't like music anymore. Like, it just kind of all feels empty right now. Like, you listen to one individual song, and it kind of feels shallow when you don't have hundreds of other different voices and perspectives behind it, boosting it up, putting this one into the spotlight. Like, it's just like, nah. And, you know, I welcomed a new part into my brain. Like, right here was where I process the music. I think that's where near eyesight is in the brain. So what's the psychological correlation behind that? I don't know. But it was like a part of me. It was like my arm. And then it just stopped when the music stopped. So it's like I lost my arm. Like a part, but psychologically, like I lost a piece of my soul. It's just gone. I gave myself something new, then took it away. So the music feels empty, but I also kind of do too. Would I recommend doing this? No. I would not. If you want to hear different music, maybe switch to Bandcamp, or go outside, go see a local live performer, or go to a club and see a DJ. That's kind of what they do. They cycle through songs, but at a slower, leisurely pace, which is more similar to how we live, even though it feels fast when we're in the moment. It's all kind of slower, peaceful. If you have any questions about my process, feel free to ask them in the comments. I'll probably ignore any if I think that anyone's trying to replicate this experiment, because I don't want to be the inspiration for anybody to feel like I feel. But yeah, if you comment, I'll probably answer any questions, any words of advice. If you subscribe, I'll make sure to keep you guys updated about how I get out of this. Maybe I should listen to Bandcamp, because there's different music on Bandcamp that's not on Spotify.